Okay, last week I said I was going to leave the glass in so I could start working on the B-post on this side. And I was fooling around with the glass with the door closed, and the glass only pops down about a half of an inch out of this seal. And I noticed that it wasn't completely out of this seal when I bumped it down to about a half of an inch. The problem with that is when you open the door and you go to close the door, it was closing on the outside of the seal instead of dumping on the inside. So it meant that I had to take the glass out so that I could take the carrier and modify the holes so I could shift the whole thing back about a quarter of an inch so that when you open the door with the glass popped down, that you'll be able to close it and it'll shift back up, but it'll clear this initially in the front. So that means I have to move the glass back in that. Since I had that all out, I decided to take the regulators out, which was only 4 bolts and the motor, and go about doing all of the upgrades that I came up with on the other side to create this opening over here, brace out the top, and then hit it with some self-etching primer over here. Also I needed to clearance out some things for this this latch over here. It was rubbing on a couple of spots there, and I didn't have enough metal cut out where the latch actually engages. Just a bunch of little stuff like that. I figured once I had the regulator and the glass back out, I'd go ahead and finish that up. So I just went ahead and neatened that all up. Now, in addition to that, I decided to address an issue that I've been puzzling over for a while. You see all these holes at the top of this door. Now, normally you wouldn't be able to do this because this is actually the top of the door. The finished interior, this just normally gets painted. As you can see, I've got a bunch of drill holes for all of my apparatus. The door card usually starts in the stock charger from here down to about this point here, which this is also supposed to be a painted area down in here. Well, needless to say, we're not going to do any of that. We're going to go over the entire thing. So the question arose early on how to attach these window whiskers to this outer door skin, and then also to the inner part of the door. Well, on the inner part of the door, what I intend to do is with this inner whisker is make it part of the top of the door panel, which means that it'll hopefully just hook over the top of the door like this, like you would have like in a General Motors vehicle or anything of that era. And then the panel would just continue and wrap down and then lock in at the bottom. This would create like a hook over the top like that. So what's going to have to happen there is in order to attach it, there'll be a thin piece of sheet metal going in the down direction here that this will be attached to. So however I attach this, which will probably be with countersunk pop rivets, or really dome heads would do, because you've got quite a bit of distance between here and the flange on the inside here. So probably be just pop rivets. But the pop rivets will stick out this back side. So what I'm going to have to do when I determine that is I'm going to have to cut some notches in here in order for those pop rivets to clear, so that this hooks over there without those pop rivets hitting. Anyway, that's something for quite a bit in the future. As far as the outer skin is concerned, normally these are held on by, let me see, I've got these little one-way clips here, these little white metal clips. And I got a bunch of them in with this window kit. Problem is they're kind of a pain to get them in the exact location you want, because they clip into these little slots on either side. There's ones on the back side here also. So in other words, these would line up with this opening here, and then they would shove down here. So I didn't want to use them because I have to be able to remove these for various reasons, since I'm engineering all of this stuff. So it has to be able to come back off. I don't want it to be on a one-way clip where it clips in and then I can't get the whole thing out without marring everything up. So I want to screw these things in from the back side with these Tech screws on this outer skin. And so what happens is once the outer skin is on the door here, I had to come up with some clearance holes where, as you can see, the screws from here. Before the glass goes in, you have to have I needed to have the ability to run a screwdriver in through a clearance hole and hit the screw and screw these in from the inside of the door before the inner door panel goes on. So I took this opportunity while everything was out of the door again to go ahead and line up all these holes so that they correspond with these screws that hold this to the outside. Now I don't have to worry about, you know, pushing those white metal clips down into slots, trying to locate the slots and get them stuck in there just right, you know, without them being a little bit too high or too low here. I can push them down and get a nice tight fit there. Anyway, I thought I'd show you that. That's what I'm up to. I always have a plan, but something always comes up, presents itself. You can see I got the clearance hole on this side now for the equipment, so that's going to work out pretty good there. On to the next thing. Okay, here's what I'm talking about as far as when I build the inner door panel, how it's going to attach. Now, normally, the only thing you have on the back side here would be the window whisker itself, and this would be painted, and then the door card starts from here down on a stock Charger. They do have, I think the 70s had a pad here. I don't know how that was all attached, but at any rate, we have, this is a sample of how that would look. This is the just made out of sheet metal and just covered with a little bit of vinyl to represent how I'm going to approach this. So what will happen then is the window whisker itself will attach right to the back side flange here. So necessarily anything I attach it with is going to run into the top of the door here and not want to clip down like this. So if I have rivets coming through from the outside in, I'm going to have to make some clearance on this side over here, wherever those rivets are located. The other thing that happens here is, because this of the sheet metal and then the vinyl wrapped over top of it, we necessarily boost this out probably 3/32 to a half or an eighth of an inch, so that puts the window whisker further into the hole where the glass slides up and down. We don't want to add any more friction to the window and create any problems of traveling up and down any slower than it already does. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to take an eighth of an inch off, take this rim off over here and make a new one so that it's stabilized across the top here and it stays straight, and but move it in about an eighth of an inch. So that's what I'm going to do right now. Okay, so this is a simulation of what the upper part of the inner door panel will look like. Now, this necessarily will be maybe rounded or pad. It's going to be definitely padded and it'll have vinyl on it. But just wanted to demonstrate to myself, you know, whether or not this was going to work the way I intended to do it. And that would be I have taken the window whisker, the inner window whisker, you could say that, and I've pop riveted it to this inner door panel here. So you can see that this is riveted, and you can also see that the rivets protrude on the back side of this, so it's not a flush fit unless you can see I've made these clearance holes over here, these little U-shaped holes over here, so that when you slip this down over top, they actually kind of key in there and slip down into those shapes, so that I'll be able to put this on relatively easily, and then it'll be part of the inner door structure as opposed to trying to attach it to this face over here. Anyway, that's where I am with this, and maybe I can get back onto what I intended to do. Okay, so this is the second side. Gets up there real nice in the seal, and then when it drops down, it's free of this seal over here, as you can see on the side. What I had to do on this side, what I'll have to go back and do on the other side, was I killed two birds with one stone. Normally there's some holes drilled on the top side here for a piece of stainless molding that normally goes on a stock charger. I'd eliminate all those holes. So at the same time, I decided to cut about 1/4 of an inch out of the width here. What I was having an issue with is these two window whiskers that they provide with this kit. Normally you'd have one like this on the outside of the car, but on the inside of the car, you know, on the door side, you would just have a flat felt. You wouldn't have this same rubber situation going on here. So it really kind of is creating a little bit more friction than I think is necessary for this thing to operate properly. And so I went ahead and I opened up the gap basically a little bit, about 1/4 of an inch here, so that has a little bit more freedom to move up and down. The other thing that I did discover is that doing a lot of testing will heat up the motors, and the more you heat the motors up, the slower they go. So these things are not meant to be run up and down a bunch of times. You know, at best they work intermittently. You know, and so anyway, I learned to let them cool down, and they work much better when they're cool. Anyway, long story short, everything works pretty good on this side also, relative to the other side. I'll have to go back and make that same modification to the top panel, open up that gap a little bit at the top for the window whisker, and hopefully that'll free that window up a little bit better too. Anyway, still a little bit of adjusting to do here and there, and we'll keep at it. All right, so a couple of things I've just done. Let me get this button here, run this up just a little bit here. Okay, you can see this. This is the old hole combination for the stop. I went ahead and I drilled a new hole for it, and I bolted it through the channel, so that when you drop the glass down, get the button here. It drops down even with the door now, so that looks pretty good. The other thing that I had to do, I want to show you, this is what I got to thinking, I says, that thing doesn't look right, that inner door window whisker. Anyway, this is what normally you would have. You just have this, it's like a fuzzy felt here, and then an interior piece of trim. It doesn't have any rubber flap on it, so the other thing was happening was, if you take a look at this side, which I haven't worked on yet, is the inner flap sticks up higher than the outer flap. So the problem is when you drop the window down so that it's flush like this, that flap was sticking way up before the glass disappeared into the hole. So what I've done here is I've gone ahead and I've trimmed off this inner rubber flap to make it flush with the top over here, so that it replicates this. I was going to try to horse two of these together, but you know, nothing beats having that nice continuous piece of trim on the top. So it looks pretty good the way it is. So I'm just going to leave that alone, and I'm going to go around the other side and make the modifications on that side, and hopefully I'll be done with this part of the job, and I can move on to the B-post. Let me just show you this one here. Now that doesn't have a lot of interference in it. Seems to go up a lot smoother. Anyway, I want to get around the other side and finish that up, and then we'll move on to the B-posts. Okay, so I did the modification to this top piece here. I trimmed back this rear window whisker, moved this stop so that the glass comes down and levels out right at the top of the window whisker. So I've got that done. I've got this done finally. I wish I could say that was all that needed to be done to these doors, but it's going to have to be obviously you know, mounting points for the speaker, worked on the door handle itself and all the cabling that goes with that. So I'm not done with these doors by a long shot, but I'm just a little bit glad to be moving on to something else. About what you get about wore out going back and forth with all of this stuff and handling this glass. Anyway, I'm going to try and move on to the B-post and see how that goes. All right, so now that I've got the glass protected on both sides from any weld spatter, since I've got to work with the glass in a upright position with it just down a little bit from the seal, so I can open and close the door. I'm slowly working on developing this B post where this will end up attaching to. So what I've got here is basically 70 thousandths steel, and I've got this thing shaped so that it'll, once this is on here, this will connect to the back side of the window where it's supposed to be. Also, it'll give me the slope top to bottom for this to fit on here. I'm pretty happy that this kind of just all worked into where it kind of fits. It's kind of really lucky the way this just ends right where it's supposed to. But so now that I've got this established, I'm going to take this off and start to build this out a little bit more and make it a little bit more robust. It's pretty good as it is, but I got to put more structure to that. Anyway, that's where I am with the B posts. Okay, so you can see I'm starting to build this up now. I've added a second layer using 70 thousandths, but bent in the opposite direction, and it's plug welded right here through this entire piece to strengthen it up, and then it's welded to the roof structure over here, and so this creates a thicker pinch weld for this bead to fit over, just like that. Now I have to bring it out this way, over, and then back to create a more substantial bar right here for this B post. Anyway, so I'm pretty happy with it so far. I'm just copying what's on the Challenger as much as possible. I don't want a big intrusion over here, you know, a big wide black frit over here on the glass. We want to just keep the glass as stock looking as possible here, so we don't have a big bulky B post. We're just going to bring it out maybe 3/8 of an inch this way. This glass is going to overlay onto the bead right here on this side all the way up, and I already fitted up rudimentarily to see if that was going to work out okay. I've got to trim this back and some other stuff, but it looks like it's going to work. So basically now I've got to continue beefing this up and boxing this out. Okay, on the back side here, I've got this return piece I've made up over here. It's going to fit in here just like that. I'll get that welded up, and that's going to add a little bit more beef to this column. Then I'll have to cap the back side of it. Anyway, I'll get that done and show it to you. All right, it's a little awkward here inside the car trying to film, but anyway, I made up this piece out of 70 thousandths like the rest of the B post, and what this is going to do is it's going to fit. It's going to fit inside here and finish this off. That'll double the back wall of this B-pillar to make it about 140 thousandths, a little bit over 1/8 of an inch thick. And then it'll be continuous welded on this seam over here, and that should finish the construction, at least of the upper part. I still have to come down here and do the reinforce the door jambs and everything too later on, but I'm going to get it to this stage, and I'm going to go to the other side and get that one caught up. All right, so I just went ahead and sprayed it with a little self-etch primer here so you could see it a little bit easier on camera. With the ground down metal and everything, all the reflection, you could hardly see what I've got going on here. And that's the pretty much the B post completed, and I'm gonna go ahead and put this rubber gasket back on it, and or hopefully everything's gonna fit just the way I designed it. We'll see. Okay, so that's it with the seal pushed back onto it, and it's also screwed into place over here to hold everything back and in. Just close the door here, and you can see the glass contours really nicely with this seal, and hopefully when we run the window up, everything will tuck in just nicely like it's been. Anyway, that's going to be it for this week. And so I appreciate everybody who watched and who's watching. And we will see you on the next one.